So I have my flat map made by Gerard Mercator on a flat table. There's a magnet mountain on this map, claimed to be over 30 French and German statute miles. Your compass is designed to measure circles around one fixed magnet. Your compass doesn't work properly with two magnets. Now I'm going to measure the magnetic field of this source magnet pulling the iron shavings. It only has one fixed pull, P-U-L-L, direction. It doesn't matter what end of the bar magnet I'm using, the effect is still the same. It still lines up with the latitudes on the map, which line up with our compass, the north-south latitude. If you're going south, you're using your white needle that's pointing to the S. That white needle is a weighted bystander for balance. Navigation in itself is a subjective action by man that we're using on this analog instrument that only serves one function, and that is to point north, the navigational direction we describe as north, which to it is its source magnetic attraction, the thing pulling the needle towards it. The needle of my compass is being pulled by the one fixed pulling direction of the source magnet that is inside its measuring field. I subjectively put the magnet in the field of the compass. If the compass isn't inside the field of a magnet, it's in Earth's magnetic field. When it's in Earth's magnetic field, it only points north. It's fixed direction. The reason it's designed and manufactured to point only north. Everything in our lives is based on the fact that that red needle is north. The religion of heliocentrism says because they measure a compass with a compass, that means there's a south magnetic pole. But whatever, you can believe whatever you like. Your compass only exists to measure the circles around a fixed magnet pulling the needle towards it. That is how navigation works. That's how your compass works. It doesn't work with two magnets because it measures semicircles around a fixed magnet pole. P-U-L-L. Every one of these this is a real map in real life, real flight paths in real life. The compass is doing this in real life. What are you missing here? The compass must be flat to work properly. Every compass in the world is pointing to the center of a flat disc on the maps in real life that we use, and in real life, because that's how reality works. The iron filings line up with the latitudes. The compass lines up with the latitudes. Everyone's compass points north. North is the source attraction that is pulling the compass needle, as demonstrated by the experiments. It can't be anything else. It literally points to every single one of the things shows that. When I put my red compass needle near the end of a bar magnet that's hanging, guess what? It rejects it because both ends of a magnet reject and pull. But the pulling force is its fundamental attraction. Instead of continuing the circular logic, okay, I've explained this several times. I know you've seen this. The magnetic field has one fixed pulling direction. That's why your compass needle can be stamped with an N. The coordinates you're referring to are the Cartesian coordinates I've been referring to for cylindrical navigation, because east and west is like a clock.
You guys want to disprove the heliocentric claim that the N of a bar magnet emanates the field of Earth, which automatically implies that your compass needle creates Earth's magnetic field. But let's show a demonstration of it. So if I take the N of my bar magnet and put it near my compass, it is telling me that the white is attracted. That is the S of our pivoting bar magnet that is a compass, okay? So when I turn this around to the S, it pulls my compass needle towards it. My compass needle with the permanently stamped indication of N, because it's the only function. Now, if the magnetic field emanates from the N of my bar magnet, that means that it's emanating from the compass needle, the red part. But it's not. A compass needle and a bar magnet are the same, and a bar magnet attracts iron at both ends. Do you see it's pulling my needle up? Do you see it's pulling my needle up? Both ends attract iron to their center fixed point in the center where it originates. It creates the field. In this one, the center where it creates the field. Now, when they lay the iron filings all over the place in the bar magnet, that doesn't do anything to help us in reality. Let me show you why we can demonstrate why it's not emanating from the N. If we take some iron filings, the red half of your compass needle is the N. So let's put a little bit of iron filings here on the S and put a little bit of iron filings on the N. Now, looking at this, we can clearly see that the S has those lines of torque pulling the iron, okay? These are the lines, the field lines of this end of the needle. We don't have that on this end of the needle because this end of the needle is the source, just like your bar magnet. S stands for source. That's why the red points to the S. It is the source.
Hey, geniuses. How can your compass needle emanate the South Pole of the globe when it points to the North Pole? This isn't something I made. This only opposites attract. How can it possibly be like that? If the South magnetic pole is the North pole of a bar magnet, it's already so convoluted just now. That's why they gotta keep laying it on thick for the blind faith, status, religion, indoctrination. They gotta layer the out of it. That's why they say it flips, and you'll never know it flips in your lifetime. Your needle will always point north, no matter what. That's what I'm saying. It's a fucking scam. It's a fucking scam. Always start first with the opposite and work your way back from what they tell you.
Just like my magnet mountain in my map that I show, the lines of longitude are pointing to the center of the fixed source. The S emanates the field. When we're in Greenland and we want to go to Russia, we use our subjective heading on our objective instrument, which always points north. Your heading is subjective only to you. Everyone else in the world's compass needle doesn't change because See You Real Soon decided he wanted to take a trip from Greenland to Russia. Every compass only points to the center, north. The needle is the part of the compass that you use as the indication of your measurement. The bezel of the compass is your subjective heading. No matter which direction I turn the bezel, the needle stays constantly to the north. You navigating doesn't change my compass needle. Look at what happens with the compass needle.
the compass is on a pivot, it turns. That's how a compass works. It's a pivoting bar magnet. Your red needle never deviates from north. You subjectively are heading there. That is what navigation is. Starting at the center point, everything is south. But if we're over here in Greenland and we want to go to Russia, as we travel along, our compass needle follows the center magnet. You see, it always points to the center. It always points to the center. We can go from here to here. We would turn our little thing, okay? So let's say we have our orientation of where north is. We have our orientation of our heading. So here we go. We have our compass needle pointing north. We're going to travel our bearing. Oh, weird. What a surprise. The compass needle stayed fixed to the north. It doesn't matter where you are going, what you are doing. No matter what, your compass needle points to the north. Everything you do with your bezel is subjective. There is nothing beyond the red half of your needle that the compass knows. A compass doesn't work with two magnet pole. It has to spin freely on a pivot. It is a simple function. It's a simple function. There is no instrument that exists that is more simple than your fucking compass. It has a red indicator. That is the part you use to measure. So when you have your compass pointing at something, you are using your fucking compass wrong. According to the compass, north is over here. Do you see how the navigation, the flight paths don't alter the compass needle of the other people on the motionless plane? Because the compass needle has one constant orientation. This is a real flight map with real flight paths using the real location of the compass needle aligned with the longitudes. Because there's only one true north, magnetic north. Geographic north and true north are complete horseshit, reverse engineered math magic. I want to play darts with this guy because he thinks just being outside the bullseye should count as bullseye points. His false equivalency logical fallacy claims that the center bullseye of this flat earth map is equal to the same amount of points as outside of the black circle bullseye on this flat earth map. They are not the same. You're either in the fucking center or you are not in the center. When you are in the center, everything is south. When you are not in the center, not everything is south. Here, let me fix it for you since you don't know what the fuck you're doing. North is the center. From the center point, everything is south. From Greenland, not everything is south. It's not the center point. Now, let me lay the compass over these flight paths that are arbitrary, but it doesn't matter. So the compass aligns with the longitude. The compass needle is fixed to the constant source pole in the center. As you navigate across the motionless flat plane, your compass needle needs to be on a pivot so it can maintain that constant position of north. Everything else is subjective only to you. Everyone's compass needle looks exactly like this on these lines of longitude. This is how fucking navigation works. What you did was create a start point that's not in the center where everything is south in all directions. You're starting in Greenland, which is not the center point. So not everything is fucking south.
This is about that thing that guy had, the Aussie mate that spends its whole life in the ocean but can't realize that it's perfectly level. It's called sea level. It's a horizontal. Obviously, it's sea level. For someone that spent their whole life in the ocean and can't recognize the fact that everywhere you look around you in 360 degrees is completely fucking flat, I think I'll pass on the information that guy has to provide. And and I'm going to show you right now, that stupid spherical star thing that he had, okay? The reason that it looks like it's spinning opposite on the underside, like I said, is because of perspective, and you are looking at it from underneath. Now, let me demonstrate this. This is the stars, okay? Now, see, I'm going to spin it. When we talk about the stars and we talk about constellations, when I talk about the precession of equinox, when the constellations shift 1 degree, is in this direction, counterclockwise. The way the constellations revolve around Polaris, the sun and moon come in an easterly way. So now, let's take this same thing. I'm going to spin it the same direction. And you see, I put the arrows on this side. So let's spin it the same direction, going clockwise. They're the same stars circling around the same fixed point, but is now going clockwise. I'll keep it spinning like this. Bend it back down here. See, still going the same way. Never change the direction of the stars. He has to think that the bottom half of the globe is spinning in opposite direction. If the globe spin is what causes the stars to spin, and the northern hemisphere spins one way, and the southern hemisphere spins another way, then how else could you have it? The Earth would have to spin opposite in the southern hemisphere. But if you use your brain for 5 seconds, for the sake of due diligence, let's do it with the globe as well. Turning our globe, turning our globe, turning our globe. Weird. What a strange surprise. What a strange surprise. Our perspective changes, the direction changes. When your perspective changes, the direction changes. Your perspective changes, the direction changes.
You're seeing the gap between the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere at the equator because the stars are at a 90 above your head running straight.
Because globe earthers don't understand how time zones work, you can go to any website that offers these kind of maps about time zones, but there's only one point whenever all 3 people on these continents can see the Southern Cross at the same time, and this is it right here. If it's any other time, they can't see it. One's super early in the morning, one's super late, and one's like in the middle of the night. That's the only way it works. Anyone that says otherwise is a liar, and you can go to that one of those apps or websites or whatever that have a similar time chart like this, and see if all 3 of those locations are in a position at that current time to make sure that they can see that Southern Cross, because it's either 2 or 1 unless it's like this.
This is the map they are referring to. The one with the magnetic mountain in the middle. Magnetite. It pulls your compass needle to the center. That's how everything in reality works. That's how navigation works. Everything is built and designed based on this. Now, if we take our iron filings with our map that he's referring to from Mercator, which is a very detailed map of the center, and I'm going to actually include an even older map just right after this point that I'm making. See how the lines of longitude align with the compass needle? Because it's the magnetic field line of the magnetic mountain in the center of the very detailed map that every culture, civilization, religion, cosmology, cosmogony, everything for all of recorded history refers to the navel of Earth.
Mount Meru, the Buddhists called it something, the Hindus called it something. Every culture, everybody refers to this. This is the black square at Mecca. You are circling this mountain. Now let's check out an even older map, about 10 years or so. This map has been put onto a globe because they say that the flat map is a somehow projected globe or whatever nonsense. So first, let's check out the North Pole, because that's what we're talking about, the magnetic North Pole, the thing that never moves. I don't care what anybody says. Geographic north is arbitrary nonsense, and you know that by your compass telling you where you are by 2 fixed points that you can visually see, and you don't use geographic north to determine your position. It's an add-on, just like I was saying with the Cartesian coordinates and polar coordinates in the other video. But strange, look how much land is up here at the center. Oh, weird, it resembles the other map quite a bit, doesn't it? Now let's flip upside down because we're on a globe, you know? So let's check it out upside down on our globe. North Pole, very obvious. That's the cardinal directions are at the fucking pole. Literally on the pole, the cardinal directions are on the fucking pole. Now, let's flip it over to the Antarctica, which doesn't exist at the bottom of the ball, because this is what happens when you put a flat map on a fucking ball. It does not work. 1,000,000%, we do not live on a floating rock in nothingness, created from an explosion of nothingness, held together by pseudo-fictitious forces. I was just sitting here thinking of that fucking woman from the other night when I owned every single one of those globe guys. I called her ma'am, which is the word you use for a female authority. It's a polite. It's what you're supposed to say. It's not an offensive thing. It's doctor. How am I supposed to know you are a doctor? Your username is like frog farts or some shit. How would I know that? That just shows like what a pretentious, narcissistic that woman is. Like, how the fuck am I supposed to know you're a doctor? Okay, doctor in what? Hopefully nothing that involves common sense and direct observation. I really appreciate all you guys with your support and everything like that. That's you guys that are following and supporting me in that live stream the other night, where I got to be an ass that don't understand how truth and reality and objective measures work. They think that they have the answer. They think that they can decide, when that's not how it is. Reality decides. You don't tell the compass needle. The compass needle tells you. You do not tell the tape measure. The tape measure tells you. They're so narcissistic and so big-brained with their pseudo-fictitious forces on the underside of curved water on the exterior of a spinning sphere. I'm the idiot, though. I'm the idiot. Because you don't know what you're saying. Why would I waste my time replying to something that I've already went over 100 times, and you don't understand what you are saying? We live in an electromagnetic toroidal field. There is no South Pole. Your compass objectively, empirically, and scientifically concludes that the Earth is a level plane with a fixed center source. Your compass, when you flip a switch for a current, your compass points to the current. It doesn't have to be a bar magnet. Claiming that it's a bar magnet is a false equivalency logical fallacy. Circling a compass with a fixed needle compass proves fucking nothing. We have a natural lodestone, a compass functioning properly, because east and west are semicircles and circles. That's why your compass pivots. It is objective. The red half is objective. Your heading, your direction, your bezel, you sticking it up your... It does not matter. The red half is the same for everyone, no matter what you do with your compass. When there's a fixed source in the center, your compass functions properly. Your compass will function properly with a fixed source in the center. If you add this static, all right, this is our South Pole. Let's have a constant South Pole now. Look, it's not working. It's not working because we have two fields acting on it at the same time. Get rid of our South Pole that doesn't exist and has no evidence. Weird. Now our compass functions properly. Let's add the constant force of a South Pole that doesn't exist. Compass does not work. Take away the South Pole that doesn't exist. Compass works fine. Add the South Pole.
compass doesn't work. Take the South Pole away, compass works fine. Like, how it's not that hard? A compass is a single pole, horizontal plane instrument for measuring semicircles and circles. It is the latitude on your map. Okay? It doesn't work when two polarity are acting on it at the same time. The needle is static. Okay? Look, I'm going 5 or 6 inches here. Both polarity acting on my needle at the same time. With your heading is subjective to only you. The compass is a constant force. It's constantly pulling the needle to the center, the source in the center. You see how much pivot is here when there is one field, one polarity? Because that's how a compass functions. You going south doesn't change the fact that your compass needle, red half, is constantly being pulled to the source magnet, okay? That's why it doesn't work when there are two fields, because it's a single field instrument, a single pole instrument. It doesn't work. You don't use the white part of your compass. This is the indicator, very clearly identified as the indication. It's an analog instrument. It is the instrument that we use to determine latitude, okay? Left and right is east and west, like a clock, okay? So what you're doing is trying to claim that a compass works with both pole acting on it at the same time. It does not. You know why it does not? Because a bar magnet is not what we live in. We live in a terrestrial field, first of all. Second of all, look, there is nothing in the middle. They zap this at both ends. Electric dipole moment. Opposing orientational polarization. There is nothing in the middle. It's not magnetic in the middle. Only the ends. A compass does not work with two opposing polarity field acting on it simultaneously. There are 0 instruments for cartography that account for anything that has to do with the globe. There are 0 objective measures, 0 analog instruments to measure the globe with upside down curved fucking water. He's a magnet in America. Oh my god. Magnet in America. Another magnet in America was gunned down today for stacking his S's.
Okay, so the force from a butterfly flapping its wings is stronger than its weight and the gravity so it can fly. How is that hard to understand that? Okay, well let's look at it, okay? This ship weighs 10,000 pounds. The water that this ship is sailing on, the curved horizon water on the underside exterior of a floating sphere in nothingness held there by pseudo-fictitious forces, that would take a lot of force upward this direction, okay, this poling direction, to maintain this trillion gallons of water, the amount of weight that is, the amount of weight of this ship, in order to hold all of this down would take a whatever, X force, okay? Now this butterfly weighs 3 ounces, okay? This butterfly, in comparison to this ship and all of this water, not including the water on the side, because there's a ship over here sailing sideways, there's a ship over here sailing sideways, okay? There's a plane here which uses all flat earth math and uses flat earth instruments. Everything about an airplane is flat earth, but it's over here flying on this curve. the amount of force that it would take to hold this water on the underside exterior of a spinning sphere floating in nothingness, created from nothingness with zero evidence or zero proof, would be so exponential in comparison to this fucking butterfly. Like, how is that? How can you not comprehend this? In order for this to stay on the underside of the ball, it takes, like I said, whatever number of force to hold that down. If we apply 1,000 pounds of force of this gravity, okay, from this down here to this butterfly, it will fucking smash that thing into the ground. So if gravity, the pseudo-fictitious force, is a constant, which they claim is a constant, which it obviously isn't, because it cannot constantly be putting the same amount of force that it takes to hold this water up and this butterfly at the same time. Because the amount of force to hold all this on the underside of the rotating, spinning ball, wobbling through expanding nothingness, okay, is so exponential to this butterfly. There's no chance, there's a 0% chance that this is real. Hey, you're right. I'm not educated. Happily not educated. Because being educated means all you know how to do is regurgitate information. I have knowledge and the ability of critical thinking, unbiased and disregarding all ostracization and shame and all the other shit that people are afraid of truth for. So yeah, I'm not educated. I don't listen to someone else and repeat what they tell me and then get a certificate for it. No, gladly. That's why I know more than you. That's why I have actual knowledge. You know what knowledge comes from? Experience, failures, and fucking time. Okay? You can't have knowledge of something unless you it up first. That's just a fact. There's no way around it. Education is regurgitation. Knowledge is firsthand experience, time, and trial and error. So yeah, I'm not educated. Sorry, I went to college, but that doesn't mean anything. So whatever. And if I want to make it a classroom, it's my classroom. This is Professor Collateral Damage 101. It's my page, okay? My page. I can treat it however I like. You don't have to be here. No one is forcing you here. No one's forcing you to comment, which further gives me engagement and helps me out. So thank you very much. I do appreciate you for watching, even though you don't know what you're talking about. I've been pondering this a little bit, and I'm like, is this dude a pilot? Has this dude ever seen a fucking compass? So how are you flying a plane, keeping your needle in the doghouse when the plane compass doesn't have one? So I pulled out my instrument cluster handbook, my piloting handbook for, the instruments, making my brain like trying to comprehend what you're trying to get at here. Because first of all right, before I get into what a doghouse is for piloting, let me just make this point. The compass of an airplane doesn't have a doghouse on it. This compass has a doghouse. It's this one that looks like a doghouse. Very obvious. That's what I'm not getting, okay? Because you don't have one in the plane to begin with. And if you do, take a picture of it next time you're in your plane, because I'd like to see it. The doghouse doesn't change unless you manually, subjectively turn it. That's why it's subjective. That's why the red needle is a constant. It's an objective measure. It constantly points to the source that's pulling the needle. To get your needle to stay in the doghouse when you're navigating, not a problem. When you're doing it on a local topographical map using this compass as it's intended to do, not a problem. The compass on an airplane doesn't have this. It doesn't have a doghouse. The doghouse for flying is like a plot visualization. It's whenever it just shows the performance of your plane, basically, of combined climb maneuvers, turn radius. It demonstrates these relationships between like climb performance, turn rate, all this shit, right? Like time, things like that. So we can do that locally
with our compass. Not a problem.
The thing you're asking me to do is not possible.
Am I surprised that this human in particular doesn't understand that the instrument that is a compass is made in various formats, different versions, for different things, even though they all objectively identify the orientation of the direction to the fixed center source that is pulling the needle towards it.
A pilot who doesn't know that his compass on his plane doesn't have a doghouse and doesn't know how to operate and function and doesn't understand a compass should not be flying a plane. He must have never even looked out the window of a plane because it's flat 360 degrees around you, no matter how high you are. So, yeah, the guy is to say it nicely, he is overcome by his shadow, meaning he's a fraud, a coward, and doesn't have the moral courage for truth. Not only does he not understand the practical applications and single function of a compass, his moral compass doesn't point true north either. This idea that you're going to use this particular kind of compass with a doghouse when no vessel that navigates internationally uses a compass with a doghouse just shows your fallacy. It shows your ignorance. It shows that you have no idea what you're talking about. Someone who knows how to properly function a compass only needs magnetic north to find their position on a map. And if you actually know how to use a compass, you can cast a reverse azimuth and find your location on a map. Don't even need magnetic north. Don't need geographic north and don't need true north. Geographic north and true north are fucking nonsense. Magnetic north is geographic north. There is objectively only one north, and that is the one that your compass points to. So trying to use a compass that's meant for local navigation and short distances over international distances is moronic. East and west are circles. You would have to manipulate your doghouse. The farther east you get, the more longitude you cross, because the longitude is a perfect north-south. It will start to tip the needle, and your doghouse doesn't pivot. You have to turn it, so it's not possible. Because it's the farther south, the wider the divide, you're never going to cross to the next 15-degree mark. That's never going to happen. Your compass will absolutely leave the doghouse. But here's the thing, right? If we're going to take this trip from Santiago, Chile to Australia on the globe using the great circle thing that is so stupid and extra add-on nonsense, like everything with the globe, they think the shortest distances between 2 points is a curve. So you would take this route. The problem is you don't take this route because we live on a flat earth and a flat earth map. And so you would be heading southwest, west, and then northwest according to the globe. But when you're on the actual flight, it's completely fraudulent. It lies to you. The second leg, the compass has broke beyond the point of westbound, so it was northwest, then west, and now we're beyond that where the compass needle turns again, now traveling west-southwest. If we were to just completely disregard and forget about all things navigation, right? And we were standing in Chile and we're looking towards Australia, it's a straight line in one single direction. But the way the compass functions and the reason your needle won't stay in the doghouse is because it constantly points to the center. After you break beyond that point where it's that little section where it's just west, it starts to turn the other way. So let's have a look at this monitor once again that's provided by the airplane, which is digital,
meaning it's not an arbiter of truth. It's not an objective measure because it can be manipulated. And we have a compass here. The compass is clearly showing west-southwest. So the compass has broke beyond the point where it was just west. We're on our way to Australia from Chile, Santiago, traveling in a heading of west-southwest. You take a flight and you put a level on your seat, it will stay level. I've showed that before. Now we're flying to Australia from Chile, and I'm showing you the compass pointing and working as it's supposed to. We have gone through so much on this page, from the basics of objective reality, which are the instruments. We haven't had a map updated in 2,000 years. The sun has not been in the constellation of Cancer at equinox in 2,000 years. Unless a map says Tropic of Sagittarius and Tropic of Gemini, it is not updated. The nautical miles everything up. They are the deception, just like geographic north, just like true north, just like the Great Circle, just like spherical coordinates, and everything else that is just reverse engineered flat earth. That's why the sun has changed its distance throughout the history of heliocentrism 5 or 6 times, because they have to keep covering up their hypocrisies and contradictions. We need a celestial master of navigation to fucking map out a new map. It's the only way. It's the only possible way, because the distances are intentionally deceptive by creating a curve that doesn't exist. The horizon cannot, absolutely cannot, be a curve. It's a subjective viewpoint that changes on the fucking hour, okay? It's not a rigid curve to a sphere floating in nothingness, spinning, wobbling, and rotating, with Australians upside down sailing on curved water that is adhering itself to the underside of the sphere. It's not a thing. It's completely imaginary. There is not one single evidence or proof or conclusion or anything to a globe. In every single arbiter of truth, all agree it's flat and motionless.
Curved adjacents don't exist. Curved baselines don't exist. So sure, make your right angle, but what shape is this then? What's the shape called then? But when you don't know what you observe, how can you get a conclusion? Have a theory, perform a test, gather data, and share your information. Do that and prove flat Earth. Come on, bro. What do you think this page is doing? You don't prove reality, first of all. Here is the claim, the law of arbitration to objective facts of reality, an analog indicator to a source of indication equals an objective fact of reality. My logical statement for my logical argument. As concluded by the arbiters of truth, which objectively measure reality, the Earth is demonstrably, empirically, and scientifically a motionless plane. No faith, no bias, no belief, just facts. The arbiters of truth that measure reality conclude the Earth is a motionless plane. When you go into your bathroom and you step on your scale, before you do that, do you tell your scale to give you a certain result? When you're driving down the road, do you tell your speedometer to give you a certain result? Do you assume that you're driving faster or slower than what your speedometer says? Do you say that you weigh more or less when you step on the scale? No, of course not. Because you are observing the conclusion of the analog instrument that is measuring that aspect of reality. That's how it works. The law of arbitration to objective facts of reality, good luck trying to disprove it. Someone please, so I can get it off my mind, disprove what I'm saying. Now, let's demonstrate some examples of my conclusion to my hypothesis, my thesis that I have, okay? Since I'm an idiot and don't know what I'm talking about and have no idea how to read instruments, you say this board is 8 feet long. Someone else says this board is 10 feet long. How do we observe the conclusion? How do we determine this? We get our tape measure. Our tape measure measures length and depth. It is an arbiter of truth. It's analog. It has analog indicators on the level, or not the level, sorry, the tape measure. Some use metric or whatever, but we use these indicators to determine the length and depth of things. The tape measure says it's 10 feet long. This person now agree that the board's 10 feet long? Of course they do, because the tape measure is telling them. You're not agreeing or yielding to person B. You are accepting the results of the analog instrument that we use to objectively measure reality. The analog indicator, the tape measure, is measuring the source indication, the fucking board. So you aren't going to be like, oh, you're right, bro. You're going to be like, oh, the tape measure, because that's how human shadow works. But besides that, let's change it and make both wrong. So we have our board. A says 8 feet. B says 10 feet. We can't agree just visually looking at it and have an objective conclusion because we're just looking at it. It would take a lot of experience and time to identify an 8-foot board or a 7-foot board. That's why, I'm talking about, that's what I mean by knowledge. It's called knowledge, okay? Get this book. Go buy this book off eBay for $20. It will give you more knowledge and you can get a fucking degree, okay? Anyways, the tape measure, the arbiter of truth that measures length and distance, or length and depth or whatever, it says it's actually 11 feet long. So does person A and person B both will yield to the the tape measure? If person B is like, nah, bro, it's 10 feet, you the tape measure. And person A is like, nah, bro, the tape measure. There's no arbiter of truth. There's no way to conclude this. That's why we all yield to the analog instruments. All I'm doing is observing the conclusions. That's literally what I'm doing. I'm observing the conclusions of objective reality as concluded by the arbiters of truth. You step on the scale, it says you weigh 160 pounds. Are you gonna, if you told someone you weigh 175, you would be wrong. Everyone knows you're wrong. If we could all watch you step on your scale and see the results of the scale, there's no way that you're going to say anything other than what it is. Because the scale is the arbiter of truth that measures your weight. I'm not asking what is weight, okay? It's density, mass, volume. That's not what I'm talking about, okay? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the direct connection from your scale, okay, giving you the results to your body. That is analog. This is the analog indicator, and you are the source of the indication. Your speedometer. It says you're doing 65. Bro, you need to slow down. You're doing 90 miles an hour. What are you talking about? My speedometer clearly says I'm doing 65. Oh, yeah, you're right. Like, no one disagrees with the speedometer. No one disagrees with the tape. No one disagrees with the ruler. The inclinator is for a sextant. It makes this shape. That's how you measure the height of the sun. 3,035 miles. Objectively measuring the sun using Pythagorean theorem, you will get a small local sun. It's an objective measure of reality. The analog instrument that we're using is the sextant. It measures elevation angle. In a sextant in particular, it can actually go beyond to 130 where you can tip it and actually look at stars behind you. Analog instrument. Everything that an analog instrument concludes is an objective measure of reality. All of these arbiters of truth, okay, the scale, the sextant, the level, the compass, the inclinator, all of these things, all of these analog instruments that we use to measure different aspects of objective reality. Reality, okay, subjective is you, only affects you. Objective affects everyone. What is the king of all arbiters? What is the king of all instruments? The compass. Why don't you believe your compass? You'll go step on your scale and it'll tell you how much you weigh, but for whatever reason, no one believes or listens to their compass. It is the king of all of them. None of them would exist without the compass. It is the king that reigns over all arbiters of truth. The way your compass functions, the reason it is king is because it is constant. We have a level, okay? The level tells us level. If we're looking at the horizon of the ocean and it aligns with our level, what other conclusion is there besides its level?
All right, so here's a few that I were able to get on my whiteboard. The level concludes by direct observation a flat earth. A sextant concludes flat earth. Gyroscope concludes flat earth. Measured length, however you want to measure the length, concludes flat earth. Plumb bob concludes flat earth. A square concludes flat earth. An attitude indicator concludes flat earth. Direct observation, common sense, look out your fucking window. Lighthouses conclude flat earth. Long range artillery like railguns and ships that conclude flat earth. Submarines conclude flat earth. The law of buoyancy, the law of density, the way that they function, the compass. Trains, train tracks conclude flat earth. The king of all of these is the compass. Why is the compass the king? Because out of all of these, it is a constant. The red needle is constantly pointing to the fixed center source of one magnetic field of one pole of a magnet. That's what a compass does. It measures the circles around a fixed point, telling you where the center is inside the field. Inside the field. This book is kind of a secret, but I will share it with you, of course. The thing about this book is it's not for everybody. It's for people who are productive and do things. Homesteaders, farmers, construction workers, any kind of trade whatsoever. Contractors, people who are trying to build shit, trying to learn and do things in reality. This is a vintage one. The Building Trades Handbook. You can get it for about $20 on eBay, a vintage one. If you want a new one, I'm sure they have those. I didn't really ever look. But let's show you what's in there. This is tried and true information for everything. This is measurements, ellipses. This is why I get all my information from. So, I mean, I'm just a crazy person that doesn't know anything, but I'm just reading the book and the instruments and the instructions for the instruments. Everything I conclude is from something like that.
Because it's a book of knowledge for reality, it starts off with arithmetic. And it has all these square roots and powers charted. So it's just easy, quick, convenient. It's a lot more than math, but you kind of need math to build things in reality. You know, it's part of the way it goes. But here's a snap of the index. Just on this first page, we have balloon framing, Baldwin's rule, bricks, brickwork, building materials, arcs, arithmetic, weight, axial neutrals, iron soil, casting blinds, just some variety on just another page of the index because there's a few of them. Radius, ranking mold, nails, masonry, line equal to arc, laundry tubes or tubs, lead pipes, joinery, carpentry, measures and weights, piping. It has the objective measures of weights and
like surveying measures. Square measure, 144 square inches equals 1 square foot. Measures of angles and arcs, cubic measures, survey square measures, dry measure, liquid measure. It has all the conversions, metric system as well. It has this section on snow and wind loads, like I'm saying for homesteaders, if you have to build a shack, what have you, things like that. It has the structure of Roman pillars too. It has everything. Need to calculate the weight of casting? No problem, bro. Book's got you. It's got this really detailed section on plastering. I'll flip through some of it here. There's anchoring. Need to do some softer shingle work. There's roofing in here. Masonry. Form boarding. Has trusses. Roofing. Masonry. We got prismoids. This video should get a like if you've never heard the word prismoid before. That's ellipses, segments, prisms, cones, pyramids, helixes, solid and curved surfaces. It's got a section on the proportions of rooms. Even provides some miscellaneous notes. This book is for people who like to do things in reality. Here's a recommendation of some other books. I would recommend the top 3 first. They are the easiest and shortest. They get a little bit more advanced. It kind of mixes up down there. It doesn't really matter at that point. But those are some books if you want to read about astronomy and measuring reality. Sailing, navigation, sextants, compasses, they're all flat earth books, obviously, but just, it is what it is.
The flat earth map dates back over 1,000 years. This map is credited to being created by a Persian astronomer. His name was Al-Biruni, and he lived between 973 AD to 1048 AD. It's the official map of the United Nations and also the United States Geological Survey. It used to be present in many places before the creation of NASA and the Antarctic Treaty in 1959. Here you see it with Admiral Byrd. This map has been restored by Dmitry from Russia with suggestions of mine, Idialenkar. Known by my YouTube channel Flat Earth Banjo, I asked Dmitry to include the Bermuda Triangle and Point Nemo, a place deep in the Pacific where NASA buries rockets. Then Robert Tozzi, a professional mapmaker, came along and enhanced the map even more. There are many people now selling this map online, but if you could order it from my online store, I would greatly appreciate it. Visit my online store now and order one of the items. I humbly thank you.